What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was banished and returned with the power of the multiverse? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. This world is a light-hearted one compared to others, but has enough chapters to show you the process. Karma said. Everyone nodded their understanding to the point the god just said. Troublesome? Where can we sit? Shikamaru asked, yawning. Yeah, the lazy Gaki is right. I don't want to stand up forever. Anko quickly shouted her agreement. Karma looked around at the shinobi's faces and snapped his fingers, bringing a blinding light over the group. When they blinked out the spots in their vision, they found themselves sitting on couches. This will be your designated seating spots unless I tell you. Karma grinned. From the left to the right, there was 6 4-seat couches organized as a semicircle. On the left couch there was Kakashi, Asuma, Guy and Kurenai. On the next couch on their right is Shizune, Tsunade, Jiraiya and Anko. Next to them was Hinata, Naruto, Sakura and Tenten. Next couch on the right would be Neji, Shikamaru, Sasuke and Lee. On the next is Shino, Ino, Choji and Kiba. On the last couch are Iruka, Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon. All of them was left blinking before their brains started to reboot. Hinata recovered faster and from a sudden confidence boost, grabbed Naruto's hand. Even when he looked at her, though her face went crimson when he smiled at her. What youthfulness you have shown. Guy stands up to thumbs up Karma with sparkling white teeth on full display. Groans and facepalms happened to all the adults at the display Guy put on. Now that's out of the way, shall we begin? Karma continued to smile unfazed, making all adults envy Karma for but a moment for not reacting to Guy's youthfulness. Shudder. World 1 Chapter 1. Goodbye Shinjiro Taiga. Hello Naruto Uzumaki. Team 7. Welcome back. How was your mission? The Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, asked, smiling at the team that had his beloved honorary grandson on it. It's Gigi. Naruto beamed. Everyone else smiled, with Asuma and Konohamaru being the happiest. Though Jiraiya and Tsunade have a certain sadness and wistfulness that the others don't. Eventful Lord Hokage. I'll have the mission report on your desk in less than an hour. By your leave? Kakashi Hitaki, Leaf Jonin and leader of Team 7, asks, wanting to get out of there as soon as possible so he could go doctor the mission reports to make it seem as if Sasuke did all the work while Naruto nearly got the whole team killed. The Hokage knew he would do this and had to hide a smirk behind his pipe as he set his plan into motion. All the adults gaped, with Kakashi wanting to purposefully discredit Naruto. Tsunade, Hinata, Anko, Kurenai and Tenten were specially furious with him for trying to do it, even if it's an alternate. She. Tsunade growled out through clenched teeth. Kakashi flinched back at the tone as he held up his hands in defense. I didn't do anything, Hokage-sama, he said nervously, though Tsunade didn't even listen as she lit into him with her fists. Naruto looked on in puzzlement. Why would Ba-chan protect me? Nobody ever did that. Naruto mused. Hinata, Anko and Tenten saw the puzzlement on his face and correctly guessed the answer and became angrier. Actually Kakashi, since Naruto is aspiring to be the Hokage one day, then he needs to learn how to do paperwork, so he will be filing the mission report for your team this time, as well as helping me finish up my paperwork here. You, Sasuke, and Sakura are dismissed. Naruto, you stay here so I can walk you through everything. Sarutobi said, not giving Kakashi any way to refuse or deny the orders without putting himself in a bad light. All the aforementioned girls cheered for the ploy. Naruto just became more confused, but he relaxed when Hinata tightened her hold on his hand, letting go so she can wrap around his arm and lean more of her head onto his shoulder. Anko pouted at being left out, though she was happy for the Gaki. Tenten also got jealous for not being able to do the same to Naruto's right side. Her two teammates slowly inched away from her as they got weary at her furious aura. Yes sir. Sakura, Sasuke. Let's go celebrate your first successful C rank, my treat. Naruto, meet us at the Bloody Kanai when you're done here so you can celebrate with us. Kakashi said, purposely giving the blonde the name of a restaurant that wouldn't let him come within 3 yards of it without a beating from most of its workers. Everyone gasped at Kakashi being so callous. Tsunade growled again but managed to control herself from going over and giving Kakashi another beating. The Jonins inched away from him while he hanged his head shamed. "Hi sensei," Naruto said with fake excitement, knowing that his so-called teacher was really someone who had led many of the beating the blonde received as a child. The teacher and other two members of Team 7 left while Naruto let his look of fake excitement drop and glared at his teacher's back. "Bastard," Naruto said as if he were merely pointing out the obvious while the Hokage snickered slightly in agreement before turning serious. All the genin agreed at Naruto's agreement, even Sakura, who was a teacher's pet. Tsunade smirked smugly and Jiraiya crossed his arms satisfied. The other Jonins hummed and didn't give away their opinion, though it's obvious they probably were not happy with Kakashi's attitude. "You have the report done?" Sarutobi asks, causing Naruto to nod stoically and hand him a piece of paper that was completely filled with writing. "Good. Are you prepared for that secret S-rank mission I told you about before you left for Wave?" Sarutobi asked, looking at the Anbu captain turned genin. "The dope is an Anbu captain in this world?" Sasuke yelled, speaking for the first time. Sasuke was obviously in disbelief as he turned to Karma for the answer. Karma cocked his head. "Didn't I tell you that there are multiple possibilities?" Sasuke surprisingly flushed but nodded. "Then it should be in the realm of reason that some of the stories won't make sense to you." Sasuke grudgingly nodded in understanding. Though before Sasuke could calm down, Karma gave everyone another bombshell. "Though your Naruto could become insanely strong if you gave him the resources. He is Minato Namikaze's and Kushina Uzumaki's son after all." Tsunade's jaws dropped with everyone else. "What the hell?" Kiba's loud voice knocked everyone out of their emotions. "Naruto is the son of the fourth? Is it that much of a shock?" Everyone turned towards the voice, seeing it was Naruto staring at Kiba with his head cocked. "You know?" Tsunade asked, shocked. Naruto turned his stare to Tsunade and she flinched from the piercing look in his eyes. "I'm a clone of his coloring, it's not that hard to pierce it together." Everyone's jaws refused to return to their shut position. Naruto scoffed and crossed his arms. "I can admit that I'm pretty stupid, but that doesn't apply to my body, physical stuff and things I control in my life." "Then why didn't you show that strength?" Sasuke was curious. "The civilian council would have demanded my execution if I showed I could survive the shinobi world," Naruto stated matter-of-factly. Everyone's eyes widened at how that was stated as fact. Hinata turned to the silent Tsunade. "Is what Naruto-kun is saying right, Hokage-sama?" Hinata choked back tears at the thought of Naruto being killed. Tsunade nodded once to confirm what he said, making the emotions in the room go higher. "I don't know why all of you are shocked." Naruto grumbled and Karma turned it back on from a gesture Naruto gave him. "Hi, I'll leave a blood clone to deal with the scarecrow, Sasuke Imouto, and pink-haired Banshee," Naruto said while Sarutobi created two shadow clones to deal with the paperwork on his desk. "I didn't call Sasuke a bastard but something affectionate," Naruto thoughtfully said. The others took notice of the as well when he mentioned it. "Good. While on your mission you may drop the genjutsu and act. You can also keep it down when you return in time for the Chunin exams in 3 months. Think you have enough time to complete your mission, or is your blood clone going to have to go through the exams for you?" Sarutobi asks with a hidden smirk at how shaken everyone will be when Naruto returned from his mission. "Chunin exams? Genjutsu?" were asked at the same time to Karma. The Chunin exams are a type of test to test the abilities of the genin. If the genin pass, they will be considered for promotion to Chunin, Karma stated to the genin who understood. Naruto is malnourished, so when he properly fed, he will be tall. So to keep the illusion of being weak, he puts a genjutsu O himself to appear that way. He explained to his gathered audience. When Karma stopped speaking, Tsunade shot out of her feet and quickly stood in front of Naruto. "May I check you?" she asked. Naruto eyed her warily and nodded his consent. She activated her medical jutsu and does a full body check. It's clear that she's angry, but she tries to control it. "You'll be on a nutrition plan and getting all those bones healed on the right place as well as healing your other wounds." Though everyone wants to ask, nobody is brave enough to ask her in this state. "I'll be back in time. I gotta leave now if I want to get there before my guides do. See ya later, old man," Naruto said, grinning foxily at his grandfather figure as he made 2 clones. One a shadow clone to tell all the clan children, who knew all about Naruto and who he really was and what he was the container of, but Sasuke about how he was dropping the mask and going on a mission, and the other a blood clone to take his place with his team. The real Naruto, still in his genjutsu and wearing his mask, raised a hand in farewell to the Hokage before jumping out the window and sending one of his smaller slug summons to tell Sasuke about his mission and all. Naruto, in his Anbu gear, Ruff jumped to the gate and arrived there just as the last of his true friends arrived. He looks good in Anbu gear. Anko thought, grinning. See you when you get back, Naru ni. The clan children said, smiling at the older boy, while the two smaller ones, Hanabi Hyuga and Konohamaru Sarutobi, hugged his legs. See you later, bro. Neji Hyuga said, dropping his cold and indifferent mask as he clasped arms with his brother in all but blood. When you get back we must have a youthful spar, my youthful brother in all but blood. Lee said, not yelling but still speaking excitedly as he grinned at the blonde wearing the grinning fox mask. Shut up, Lee. See ya when ya get back, Naru-kun, but you have to bring me back at least one weapon from wherever you're going that I don't have yet. Tenten said, grinning as she hugged her honorary brother who merely laughed at her request. See ya when ya get back, Gaki Taicho. I'm proctor of the second exam this year, so you'd better show got it? Anko asks, grinning even as she gave her commander a salute. You're the proctor? Those kids won't know what hits them. Naruto said, grinning behind his mask as he shook his head in pity for the poor contestants, causing the younger kids to giggle in agreement and amusement while Anko pouted at him. See ya when ya get back, Taicho. The Jonin senseis, minus Kakashi who didn't know his blonde student was really his commander, said, grinning at his antics. I made it just in time. Sarutobi said, appearing near the small group in a leaf shunshin. It took you this long? You're getting old, Gramps. Naruto teased with a smirk, causing the Hokage to chuckle at the usual banter. Either way, I came to inform you that your grandparents will be stopping by to come and check on you while you're on your mission. Try to keep them in line, would you? Sarutobi said while you could almost feel Naruto's devious smirk behind his mask. I'll try, but no promises. Naruto said cheekily before raising a hand in farewell to everyone and disappearing towards the boat that would take him to the veil separating the worlds and towards his new mission. So the people, Naruto is saying goodbye to our Hanabi, Konohamaru, a friendly Neji that doesn't have a stick up his ass, the same Lee, a more laid-back Tenten, a behaving Anko, who even called Naruto her captain, though that explains whose people are in his squad. A Naruto definitely is right. Good for him. Asuma, a more subdued guy. Kurenai is clearly not anally retentive in this world. Kakashi is still being a little shit that should die. The Sandame is clearly talking about the troublesome Sennin. It says a lot about them that the Sandame asks Naruto to keep them in line. During the course of the monologue, Karma didn't allow anyone to turn their heads towards who is speaking. When the monologue was finished, he released his control over them and everyone's head whipped around to see Ruka blushing madly as the words he said catches up to them. I didn't even know what I was talking about. He whimpered, embarrassed. At once all of their heads turned to Karma, who looked at them with an angelic look on his face, but it didn't fool anyone. They knew he did this. It is Subaru's turn. Subaru believes. Subaru is Subaru Kuju from Japan, and before that Subaru's clan comes from Konoha, where Naruto is from. Subaru's likes includes her friends, family, training, tea, and reading up on No. Subaru's dislikes are far too many to list right now, but it appears to be a bit of a mixture of everyone else, although I understand that sometimes one must commit murder in order to protect one's family. Subaru's hobbies are preforming No, training in her bloodline, acting, and protecting those Subaru considers friends. Subaru's dreams for the future, Subaru does not really know nor really care. Subaru will merely go wherever Subaru's life takes her. Subaru said, but she still had a small dusting of pink on her cheeks as she glanced at Naruto from behind her fan. Another one. Well done, Naruto. Kakashi mentally cheered. Naruto shivered suddenly but got the urge to punch Kakashi. A fan? So you're a wind type too? Naruto asks, looking at the design on the fan critically and picking up on the seals placed into it designed as ceremonial designs or some other such thing. It's smart of her to hide her weapon like that, Kurenai said with Tsunade and Jiraiya nodding because they have experience with seals. Yes, Subaru is a wind and water elemental due to Subaru's bloodline. What type elemental are you? Subaru asks, raising an eyebrow when Naruto grinned and rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Naruto is going to say something earth-shattering, isn't he? Ino asked exasperated. Naruto grinned foxily at her and said, "So you finally learned." Ino's only response is blushing prettily and flipping her hair in an effort to hide it. All elements and subelements actually. It's a part of one of my bloodlines from my mother's Uzumaki blood, along with being able to sign more than one summoning scroll. Naruto explained when Subaru's jaw dropped, well, as much as it could drop at least, in shock. "So I was right," echoed around the empty space while Naruto laughed at all the others' reactions. He never got tired of messing with his friends. "These next few months will be very interesting indeed," Subaru said after shaking herself from her shock-induced daze while the others looked confused, causing Subaru and Naruto to spend the next half an hour or so explaining everything to them, including the fact that Subaru's fan had seals on it that allowed her to summon not only her swords but also the clan of ravens she had a summoning contract with. Subaru was right, the next 3 months were very interesting to say the least. With the use of Naruto shadow clones and henges, the combat review didn't have to worry about an enemy attacking in the middle of one of their shows. Naruto also used the mastery of seals he inherited from his grandfather and father to make a seal that allowed the Star Division to summon forth their weapons, in a smaller, lighter form so that they could be wielded easily, in case they needed them but couldn't get in their stars in time, while there was also another seal to allow the girls to instantly summon their stars in case they didn't have time to run back to the theater and get in them before running back to the scene of attack. These seals were then painted onto the girls and Naruto, in the form of star tattoos on the palm of their hands so that all they had to do was focus their energy onto their hands and, poof, instant weapons and or stars depending on which hand they focused on. Anri and Naruto also became like brother and sister, with Naruto showing Anri how to pull off big-scale pranks without getting caught or leaving any evidence as to who did the deed. Their relationship got to the point where Anri would openly call Naruto Naru ni-san, and he would pout before calling her Anri Imouto, or Anri-chan, much to everyone's amusement. While within a week of arriving, Naruto had gone on at least one date with each of the members of the Star Division and a nice woman in a wheelchair he had met in Central Park named Diana, and within 2 weeks he found himself engaged to Gemini, Cherry, Diana, Ratchet, Subaru, and Charon, with the girls agreeing that Charon should be the main wife since she was experienced with politicians and all. Wow. Tsunade awkwardly said. Nobody else could say anything in the stupor they are in. Sasuke-eyed twitched at how fast the time had went in the alternate world. Sasuke breathed in deeply to calm himself down so he wouldn't lash out. So, in what we just got informed of is that Naruto made the security better in case of enemy attack, allowed the division to summon their weapons in a smaller form, painted a seal that can summon their weird armor, and Naruto taught a pupil the art of pranking, developed a brother-sister relationship with that same pupil. Within a week of arriving, Naruto had snagged a date with all the women in the division and a woman in a wheelchair and managed to get engaged with a red-headed girl. A blonde maid with that outfit, another gorgeous blonde girl that can possibly be a doctor, another blonde girl that seems to enjoy teasing people, a elegant type Y that's in a prior shinobi clan, and a Y lawyer that's going to be the main wife. Did I get that all? Sasuke said blankly. Karma hummed thoughtfully before saying, when you put it like that, it does sound a bit far-fetched. But it gets rid of the monologuing, and you probably don't want to watch Naruto kissing and having, do you? Sasuke grimaced and shook his head. Not like you have a choice. There is alternates that we're watching that have UAL scenes in it. Though I'll allow them to cover their ears and eyes because I'm so nice. Karma smirked. One of the most memorial things the girls would remember was the first battle against a scythe-wielding opponent robot in the sky. It took all of 2 seconds of looking at the opponent bot for Naruto to make a smart remark that had the other 3 girls there laughing from within their stars while Cherry and Anri were laughing from their booth in the theater. It took hardly half a minute for Naruto to efficiently piss off the scythe-wielding enemy so much that he could hardly aim his attacks properly and left himself open to loads of attacks, but he was destroyed by a single well-placed Mecha Rasengan that Naruto had developed. That was another unbelievable thing that Naruto had done within a single week. He had redeveloped and almost literally recreated all of the jutsus he knew so that they could work with his star, and then helped Subaru do the same, which drastically helped when fighting against the enemy, especially when Naruto used his mecha clone jutsu to create a small army of Narutos and his star. Just saying that a Naruto is overpowered. Kiba grumbled. Karma raised his hand to stop the reprimand from Kurenai. He walks over to Kiba and asks, Naruto is going to have pups soon, isn't he? Kiba looked confused but nodded anyway to say he understood. So he has to be strong to protect the pups and their bearers, doesn't he? Comprehension comes to Kiba's face when he thought about it. Naruto needs to protect his pack, especially when one is with child. With that in mind, he turned to Naruto. Sorry for all the grumbling, Naruto. Though if you do get pups in our own universe, be strong enough to protect you pack. Kiba stated grinning. Naruto grinned back and agreed wholeheartedly with protecting his own children when he has them. Kurenai understands why Karma stopped her. She hasn't thought that talking in the mindset the Inuzuka clan have, so he probably doesn't understand her lectures. Another memorable event was when he went to Harlem to give Charon a letter as a favor to Mr. Wong. 2 seconds within stepping foot in Harlem, Naruto was accosted with Barbie, Jane, and Carlos of the Centaur gang, and the confrontation with Steam Frontier went something like this. They must have sensing skills around their city if they were onto Naruto that fast. Tsunade hummed. Jiraiya took this opportunity to wiggle his body to gain her attention, though that was a stupid thing to do because she kicked him to stop him from moving. Look man, I understand that you're protective of your turf, especially when it involves strangers like me, but I'm running an errand for someone and delivering this to Charon. I don't want no trouble or anything, and I promise that I'll get out of Harlem as soon as I'm done with my task unless Charon or someone else asks me to stay. Mind if I go through now, since I don't think Charon would like it if I had to hurt someone she sees as family, and I really don't want her mad at me. She's scarier than the devil when she's mad, Naruto said with a slight shiver as he remembered one time when an arrogant idiot had strode on stage in the middle of a show and demanded that she date him or suffer the consequences. She was downright pissed at the idiot and not only sent him to the hospital with several broken bones and missing teeth, she also invented several new ways to use curse words and a wooden sword. Ooh, Anko stated in interest. Kurenai quickly looked at Anko because of her tone and sternly said, Anko, no. Anko turned her pout onto Kurenai. But Kurenai, no. Fine, we'll let you through, but you cause any trouble on our turf and your ass belongs to us. Bibi and Jing will escort you and make sure you don't do anything funny. Carlos said, nodding his head at the two women with him that were blushing as they looked Naruto up and down since he was wearing a form-fitting muscle shirt and a pair of skinny blue jeans. Probably didn't take into account that Naruto is super hot. Tenten snickered. Hinata and Anko locked their eyes onto Tenten at the double message that sends across. They see she's interested but doesn't want to pursue herself, probably waiting for Naruto to make the first move. She's probably a romantic type and wants to take it slow. It won't work while we're stuck here, but she's seemingly happy to wait. Anko and Hinata nod to each other, agreeing that leaving her alone seems to be the best. Sorry dude, I don't swing that way, and my ass has already been claimed by several women who are open to sharing me with each other but not with other men. Naruto said with a cheeky grin, even as he offered his arms to the two blushing women who immediately latched onto him while Carlos stood there spluttering and getting mad. This Naruto seems to be a magnet towards the ladies, maybe I can use that. Jiraiya grinned the best he can with the gag before he looks to Naruto with Hinata still in Naruto's lap with his arms around her. Perhaps not. It seems that Hyuga girl already claimed him. I definitely don't want to get a beating by a Hyuga, they fucking hurt like hell. He shivered, remembering some of the beatings he received by Hyuga women or Hyuga men unhappy at his peeping on their girlfriend. So you're a player? Jane asks while Naruto was grateful to Anri, Cherry, and Charon beating the meaning of some slang words into his head. What's a player? Shizune asked Karma with the others listening. A person who dates more than one person at a time, either without their partners knowing, or for other things. It's technically cheating, Karma explained. Nah, where I come from I'm the last male descendant of several important families and my government will literally force me to marry several women whether I want to or not. According to my country's laws I'm forced to marry a minimum of 6 women, although I can marry more than that. In the 2 weeks I've been here I pretty much got engaged to 5 women without me knowing it until they told me straight to my face that they wanted to marry me one day and not only don't mind sharing but also won't take no for an answer. Naruto explained since it was pretty much true and he had already given them the rings since he did fall in love with them in the short time he's known them. Lucky bastard. Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kiba and Asuma thought at the same time. Lucky bastard. Carlos muttered, earning swift angry slaps to the back of the head from Jing and Barbie before the two women glared at him and dragged Naruto towards Charon's law office, which was above a laundromat. Naruto pulled the girls away from the door a millisecond before it opened, which kept a four-way collision from happening with Charon and the three of them. Close collision, Asuma muttered. Everyone agreed with him, thinking that the collision would hurt the girls in the alternate because they technically civilians. Oh Naruto, I thought our date wasn't until tomorrow? Charon asks in surprise at seeing her fiancé at the door with two of her friends and honorary younger sisters. It's not. I was just asked to deliver this to you, and these two lovely ladies decided to accompany me so I didn't get lost or cause any trouble, Naruto said, causing Barbie and Jing to blush and refuse to look at either Charon or Naruto. They seem to have potential to be in the harem. Anko muttered low enough that no one heard her. What seems to be the problem, Miss Archer? A blonde-haired man in a suit and wearing glasses asks, stepping up behind Charon and causing Barbie and Jing to tense. He must be bad news to make them tense like that, Ino noted, making the others pay more attention to the man. My fiancé and two of my friends came to deliver something. Nothing for you to care about, Charon said coldly and causing the man to gape at her slightly. He must be causing her trouble in her lawyer business probably, Ino concluded, while everyone gaped at her conclusion, still considering her to be a fangirl of Sasuke. What they don't know is that her crush for Sasuke is slowly letting go its hold over her. Because of that, her natural Yamanaka skills are coming clearer. HMM. You're probably right, Ino. Naruto agreed without any surprise in her abilities, making her curious. Why aren't you surprised? Ino asked curiously. Naruto looked at her confused but said, you're the daughter of Inoichi, so you had to have some innate skill relating to his field of work. It just happens to be deduction and observation of the body language. Ino flushed in happiness at having some skills like her daddy's, but then his whole statement caught up to her. She turned shy and turned away from him, saying nothing. Naruto was confused, but Hinata squeezing his hand brought his attention to Hinata shaking her head. Seeing that, he let it go. I wasn't aware you had a fiancé, the man said, pushing his glasses up his nose and glaring at Naruto slightly. Tsunade noted the glare and thinks, is it because he's jealous? Or because he doesn't know that fact about her life? They must be rivals though. My personal life is none of your business, and I'd thank you to keep it that way. Now, if you don't mind, I'm sure they would like to come in instead of standing outside my office all night, Charon said coldly and calmly, causing the man to flush slightly in anger and back away from the door, allowing Charon to back away and allow the others entrance. Naruto accepting a small kiss on the cheek from his lead fiancé as he passed her. This small show of affection caused Bill to glare at Naruto darkly, earning a bored look in return. Must be jealousy. Doesn't matter anyway when a Naruto can easily handle him. Tsunade shrugged and went back to focusing on the screen. Shall we continue on with the deal then? Bill asks Charon, and doing his best to ignore Naruto and his two companions as they took a seat on the couch across from him. Rude. Iruka-sensei would have yelled at us if we ignored him, Konohamaru huffed, crossing his arms with his two friends agreeing with him. You three are correct. I would definitely do that. Iruka smiled, unfazed at all the pouting the kids are doing. Naruto snorted in amusement and agreement, but he noticed the shiver Hinata just had when his hot breath went over her neck. He experimentally breathed on her neck and got the same reaction. Naruto smirked and quickly pulls her jacket to the left more so other people can't see the hickey when he allows the jacket to go the right position. He kisses her neck and hears her breathe hitch. He starts to suck on her neck, allowing her to bring the front of her jacket into her mouth to muffle the moans she's making. It seems to be effective because nobody looked at them, only Anko. He notes that for later before he focuses on making a hickey on Hinata's neck. Fine, but let's make it quick, Charon said with a small exasperated sigh and an apologetic glance at Naruto and her friends, causing them to smile back in understanding. Good. So we agree to knock down this Harlem trash and build up a newer and better Harlem? Bill asked bluntly and causing protests and exclamations of disbelief to be heard from the two Harlem girls sitting next to Naruto while Charon frowned greatly. That doesn't seem to be what the deal was about though, Shizune stated confused. No, you said we were just going to redevelop the buildings so that they were better. You mentioned nothing about knocking them down and building new buildings on top of them. The Harlem as it is right now is not trash, Sure, it's not the best place in New York, but it's a lot better than it could be. Charon said, frowning greatly at Bill, who smirked at her smugly and pulled out a piece of paper that looked official. So he tricked her into signing that. Anko guessed, trying not to show how aroused she is by the sight of Naruto putting his lips to Hinata's neck to give her a hickey without any encouragement for her. He did it all by himself, so that means he's open to UAL things and can initiated them himself. Need I remind you, Miss Archer, that this paper is the contract you signed with Steam Frontier, agreeing to work with us and do as we ask as long as it's not against the law? Bill said, smiling smugly at the woman who looked angry now. Tricked it is. Anko nodded unhappily, though the others obviously shared that's displeasure. May I see the contract for a moment? Naruto asks politely and without showing emotion in his eyes or on his face. It seems Naruto has a plan. It better be a good one. Tsunade thinks, having murderous thoughts about the Arceus hole. I don't see why not. Bill said, confused but confident as he handed Naruto the contract. Stupid. You never hand an enemy the information that harms their allies. Tsunade mentally thought. So you're saying that because of this paper that Charon will be forced to work with you? Naruto asks with a plan forming in his head as he looked the paper over, discreetly giving Charon several signals that made her eyes widen before she was forced to hide her smirk. It must be a good plan for her to smirk like that. Anko thought, intrigued. Yes, if anything happened to that piece of paper then the contract will be null and void. Why? Bill asks, nodding his head to Naruto's question but not liking the devious smirk that appeared on Naruto's face at his answer. He's probably going to destroy it. Anko thought, but a copy of the devious smirk Naruto is wearing appears on her face. No reason. I just wanted to know if I could help my lovely fiancé out by doing this. Naruto said, throwing the contract in the air before launching a signless fireball jutsu from his mouth at the contract, burning it to ashes before anyone could grab it. Tsunade stares for a moment before she bursts out laughing before the others join her when the scene ingrains that into their mind. That's definitely a memory I'll look back on for a laugh. Tsunade thought, wiping a tear away from her eye. There, now Charon doesn't have to work with you and you can't legally destroy Harlem without the residents' consent. Naruto said, grinning victoriously while Charon grinned as well at the looks of shock on Barbie's, Jing's, and Bill's faces. They all snored at the shocked faces. It doesn't really surprise the audience that Naruto would think of that. Shikamaru looks completive before looking at Naruto to ask him something. Hey, Naruto. This is troublesome, but would you come and help me and Dad with some stuff? You know how to get people out of trouble even more so than getting them into trouble, so could you help us? Shikamaru lazily asks. Everyone gapes at how long that sentence was. I'm pretty sure that was the longest I heard you talk. Anyway, what's your problem? Ino asked, concerned. It's too troublesome to explain. Shikamaru lazily stated. Naruto shook his head and answered an affirmative, and that was that. Thank you for that, dear. Would you mind too terribly if I asked you to escort Mr. Bill here out of Harlem? Charon asks, grinning at her fiancé, who merely smirked foxily, making the three women present blush brightly, and stood up before clapping a calloused hand onto Bill's shoulder. That face he's making is Suwai. Going to have to talk to Hinata about how to coax that behavior out of him. Anko mused. She knows a mask when she sees one. The mask drops when something important comes out or he does something UAL with Hinata, but she knows that's Naruto's real personality. He probably has to hide his real personality so he won't get more beatings. Please either come quietly or I will have to use force. Please just give me a reason to force you out of here. Naruto said with a perfectly straight face as he stood behind Bill, radiating impending doom. Not half a minute later was Bill sent flying out of Charon's window with enough force to send him flying right out of Harlem. Serves him right, Tsunade stated, smirking. The others smirked as well. Then there was the rather unforgettable memory of Tsunade coming to visit Naruto a few seconds before Kokuryu attacked. Here's a look of how that went. So I'm coming on the screen now? What do I do? Tsunade asked, intrigued. So you're the girls that are gonna marry my little Naruchan? Not half bad, and you each look like you're actual able to take care of yourselves. Huh? Hey Gaki, when do you learn about the marriage contract between the Senjus and Kujas? Tsunade yelled to her grandson, who was playing basketball with Carlos and a few others when his grandmother spotted Subaru. I definitely agree with my other self. I'm glad you are marrying a person who can take care of themselves. A marriage contract? HMPH, not like a Naruto would know of it. Tsunade snorted. Hinata and Anko looked closely at Naruto for his reaction towards the marriage comment. They see him looking down at his joined hands resting on Hinata's stomach. He rubs her stomach, making her feel a blush creeping on her cheeks and butterflies in her stomach. She feels Naruto completely relax, making her happy because she just gotten the confirmation that he would feel happy married to her and having children because of him rubbing her stomach. Anko saw as well and was even more happy when he subconsciously flicked his eyes to her. The look in her eyes was enough confirmation for Hinata to understand that Naruto looked at her. She's happy for Anko, surprisingly without any jealousy. I'll still be the first one Naruto-kun has with though. Hinata thought, determined. There's a marriage contract between Senjus and Kujus? Naruto shouted back, looking away from the game just as he shot the ball right into the hoop. Yeah, my mom set it up saying that whenever there was a male born to me he would have to marry the Kuju woman closest to his age. Since your dad went missing as a baby and the Kujus couldn't be found when you were born, it was declared null until a Kuju woman was found. Tsunade shouted back, causing everyone to look surprised before the two blonde ninjas looked at each other for a minute before merely shrugging it off. Both Tsunade-sama and Naruto-kun have the same adaptability, though Naruto-kun's is significantly higher than hers. Shizune though with a giggle. So who's going to be his main wife? Tsunade asked, changing the subject with a curious look on her face. That question made both Hinata and Anko shoot looks at each other. Anko clearly sends the message that Hinata will be the main wife. That makes Hinata nod happily. That would be me, Charon said, stepping forward a little bit with her engagement ring shining on her finger. It makes sense for the lawyer to be the main face that deals with the politics. Tsunade muses. She hopes the Hyuga girl will tell Naruto her feelings soon so he will understand it, but the position they're both in, it seems Hinata already made her move. She hopes they give her grandbabies. Oh, didn't you also say that you and Naruto consummated the marriage last night and that was why you were in such a happy mood earlier? Cherry asks, grinning mischievously, showing that she spent a lot of time around Naruto with how mischievous she looked, as she leered at Charon, who had blushed several different shades of red at this question. Kurenai, Sakura, Neji, Shikamaru, Sasuke, Ino, Choji, Kiba all groaned at the subject. Shino remained indifferent and Tsunade, Shizune, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Iruka, Guy, Lee, Tendon all smirked, cheering him on with no words. Konohamaru, Moegi, Udon. Though they don't understand the subject, Guy, Lee and Anko all cheered with their voices, adding onto Naruto's embarrassment, making his bury his head into Hinata's, making her deliriously happy. Is that why you were limping earlier? Ratchet asked with a faux innocent look on her face while smothering her laughter at how bright Charon was turning. Tsunade snorts as well. She subtly looks at Hinata and Naruto. She knows Naruto's happy-go-lucky attitude is a mask, and she also sees how it briefly goes down with Hinata and Anko. Hopefully those two will give Naruto strength to fight back at the idiots and a family he can protect. You do know I can hear everything you're saying, right? Naruto said, turning a brilliant shade of red from over on the basketball court, causing the others to burst out laughing while Charon turned even redder. Of course they can hear you. They're trying to tease you. Sasuke snorted, amused. Screw you all, Charon said, glaring at her friends and soon-to-be sister wives. Okay, can we let Naruto watch? Cherry asked with a faux innocent look, causing Charon to turn a new shade of red while Naruto seemed to be impersonating a tomato with how red he was turning. At that moment a woman with orange hair wearing black armor appeared in a small flash of black lightning just in time to be hit in the head with a basketball that Naruto had tried to throw to one of his teammates, but Cherry's comment had threw off his aim. The strange woman was knocked backwards and hit her head on the ground, knocking her out cold instantly. Almost instantly Naruto and his girls plus Anri, who had been playing with Gemini's horse Larry over in the nearby park, and Tsunade were by the woman's side. Diana was checking the woman over with a basic healing jutsu that Tsunade had taught her when it was discovered that each of the star members had chakra, no matter how little or how much. Concerned murmurs filled the white space. She'll be fine. The basketball to the head just surprised her so much that she fell back and hit her head, knocking her out cold. She should wake up in a few seconds, Diana reported, and sure enough the orange-haired woman groaned not 3 seconds later. They all sighed in relief. They know that the basketball could have killed her if a Naruto wasn't controlling his strength. Who hit me? The woman asked, looking at the people surrounding her without the crazy glint in her eyes that had been there when she first appeared. Mind control? Tsunade wondered. After thinking for a few seconds, Ino agreed. That would be my fault. I got distracted when throwing a basketball and it hit you in the head. Sorry about that, miss. Naruto said, scratching the back of his neck sheepishly while glaring pointedly at Cherry, who merely gave him an innocent look that no one bought for a second. At least that Naruto apologizes. Sakura huffs arrogantly. She didn't hear inner Sakura yell, "Idiot," at her. Everyone frowns at her and Hinata feels Naruto tense up again. Hinata shoots her a glare and opens her mouth to surprisingly tell Sakura. Sasuke was the one who interrupted her. Sakura, when Naruto does say something offensive, her always apologizes. Sasuke said, severely frowning at her. This shocks Sakura as she looks around her for help but only finds disbelief, anger, disappointment, them looking at her like she doesn't have a stable mind. She doesn't, but this Sakura has a shit ton of problems for the littlest of reasons. Denial is within reason. Naruto relaxes when the others disagree with her, especially Hinata seemed to be ready to shout at Sakura in his defense and Anko, who looked ready to kill her. Though he is a little surprised Sasuke defended him, but he noticed how Sasuke looked happy at him being strong and cuddling Hinata. He never had a serious problem with the Uchiha. He only was annoyed with the arrogant personality he has because of the ass kissing he had gotten because of him being the last Uchiha. It will get him killed on a mission. He doesn't want that to happen to him despite how annoying Sasuke is. Don't be. Knocking me out like that resulted in a spell that was placed on me to be lifted. But since I lost a battle, whether you knowingly defeated me or not, that means I must marry you, as is the way of my people. The woman said, causing everyone to merely blink and stare at her for a second before Anri, Cherry, and Tsunade began laughing while Naruto face palmed. That could only happen to Naruto, Foxy. Tsunade and Cherry said in unison through their laughter. That could only happen to someone with Naruto's luck. Tsunade laughed with Anko and Shizune shakes her head exasperated. And so Naruto began getting to know and date Kokuryu before they finally got engaged around a month and a half later. Another interesting thing that happened was when Rosita met Anri and Naruto. Thank God the engagement happened after a reasonable time. Sasuke groans relieved. The other genin except Sakura laughed at him. Sasuke sees Ino laughing at him, making him hope that she let go of the crush she had. Pranks? I like pranks. Can I help? The small Mexican asked, her eyes lighting up when Anri and Naruto had mentioned pranks as they were showing Rosita to the theater. Another prank demon. The Jonins moaned miserably with Naruto smirking at them. Sure, me and Naruto-san could always do with another prankster joining us. Anri said, grinning at the 11-year-old Mexican bounty hunter. That was another thing that happened. Since Anri saw Ratchet and Charon as her mother figures and they were both getting married to Naruto, she thought it only fitting to call him her dad, much to the others' amusement, while Naruto face planted at that before he and the girls agreed to adopt Anri the moment they went to Konoha for a visit. Everyone smirked at the reaction Naruto had with Anri calling him her dad. Hinata and Anko smiled softly at the scene, hoping that Naruto will have children with them soon. Hinata got more hope when she felt Naruto's smile and his subconscious rubbing of her stomach. She now has the confirmation, Naruto definitely wants children in the future. Tusan? What does Tusan mean? Rosita asked the slightly older girl while looking up at Naruto curiously. She must not know of the translation in her language. It's so cute though. Shizune mentally squeals. Tusan means father or dad. Since I'm marrying the ones she sees as her moms, she calls me her dad. Naruto explained, causing Rosita to awe in understanding. He's good with children. Anko happily thinks. She looks to Naruto and sees subconscious, and she knows a subconscious action from a conscious action, rubbing his hands on Hinata's stomach. He must be thinking of having children, having a family. We'll give you one, Hinata and I. Anko smiled softly. Since my papa's gone, does that make you my new papa? Rosita asked innocently as they walked into the theater, causing Charon and Cherry, who were nearby, to snicker slightly at the hit over the head with a star look on Naruto's face. He's got the same face when Anri called him that. Tsunade smirks but doesn't comment aloud, seeing his hand rubbing a happy Hinata's stomach. That's an indicator that I will have grandbabies. Though I will have to warn them that Hinata's developed enough to carry a baby to term so they can discuss it. Tsunade thinks. She doesn't have a problem with Hinata getting pregnant in the dimension, but she will definitely tell Naruto and Hinata all they need to know about the pregnancy ninjas have. I'm sure Hiyashi will be thrilled when he gets notified. Naruto will be undeniably happy as well. Tsunade smiles softly at Naruto, hoping for a week break after this universe is done, so they can have and she will see if those sessions can get Hinata pregnant. Sure, if you want me to be, I guess. Naruto finally said with a shrug of his shoulders. He had always wanted a big family and it seemed like he was finally getting it. Hinata and Anko heard the agreeing sound he made when Naruto mentioned a big family. Anko and Hinata shared a beaming smile. Yay, I got a papa. Who's my new mama then? Rosita asked innocently and complete with a tilt of her head. Still so cute. Shizune mentally squeals again before she controls herself. You have 6 mamas and a sister now, I suppose. Naruto said while Charon and Cherry began making their way over to the small group of 3. Still to get 6 women engaged to him. I'm so proud. Kakashi smiles and wipes away his manly tears. Luckily for him, Tsunade was too distracted by the thought of Naruto getting Hinata pregnant. How happy they'd be because of that and giving her grandbabies to spoil. 6 mamas and a sister. I the luckiest girl in the whole world. When can I meet my mamas and sister? Rosita exclaimed excitedly while Charon and Cherry began laughing. Here's 2 of your mamas now and Anri here is your sister. Naruto calmly told the excited bounty hunter, who shouted happily at this and promptly tackled her 2 of her mamas and her sister in hugs that nearly broke their backs. She's strong. It could be because of her job. Ino mused, observing how that hug nearly broken their backs. That's how Naruto's friends from Konoha found their friend and honorary brother. Here a small look on how the various teams and people reacted. So, it will show us now? Kiba asked, getting an affirmative from Karma, the rest of the genin paying close attention. Naruto stopped rubbing Hinata's stomach in the process, to her disappointment. Let me get this straight, Gaki. You're engaged to 6 women who don't mind sharing you with one another or making out with one another, and you've adopted 2 girls as your own daughters. Naruto's grandfather Jiraiya asks, looking at his grandson in wide-eyed shock. Naruto merely nodded mutely and pulled Anri and Rosita out of the way just in time for his grandfather to kneel to Naruto and start bowing repeatedly, chanting, I'm not worthy, and teach me your ways, master, over and over. Everyone laughed at the scene of Jiraiya bowing so comically like that. Jiraiya agrees with his alternate action though. You're engaged and adopted 2 kids as your own? Tenten asked when her team visited Naruto under guise as a C-rank mission just 3 days after Jiraiya had left. Once again Naruto only nodded mutely and sighed when Team 9's jaws dropped. Let's see the reactions from Team Guy. Anko said, grinning. Lucky bastard. Neji muttered, glaring at his honorary brother in jealousy. Everyone turned to Neji, shocked at having a less anal retentive alternate Neji. He didn't argue with his alternate's comment anyway. Yosh, your flames of youth burn brighter than ever before. Lee and Guy yelled in creepy unison and making all of the females present that wasn't used to them sweat drop and back away slowly. Everyone but Guy and Lee, who was doing what in the background, nodded in sympathy. We have to deal with this every day, was Tenten and Neji's thoughts. Long as you're happy and they're not fangirls. Tenten said, shrugging her indifference to this. Alternate me is technically correct, so I have nothing to dispute. Tenten shrugged. You are one lucky bastard, Ni-san. Sasuke said when he snuck out of the village with Team 8 not even a full week later, taking a page out of Naruto's book and leaving a clone in his place. So they have a brother relationship in this universe. Iruka stated in understanding. Sasuke and Naruto looked at each other, considering. They look at each other's face and seem to see what they want to see. They nodded to each other, agreeing on an unseen message. Only Anko and Hinata shrugged the shock off because they can do the same thing easily. As long as you treat them right and they don't mind, it's none of my business. Kurenai said, shrugging it off just as easily as Tenten had done. So you don't have a stick stuck up your ass in this universe. Anko stated with a smirk. Kurenai opened her mouth to argue but stops at the agreeing nods Anko gets. She turns to her genin team and sees they are agreeing as well, but she's shocked most by Hinata. She agreeing with what Anko said and while in Naruto lap and arms. She thinks how inappropriate that was before she thinks about that thought and realizes Anko is right. She doesn't have the right to beat her beliefs into her team, especially now that she understands that clans do things differently because of a reason. Hinata just had a sudden and random thought of, I don't have to worry about Kurenai-sensei's disgusting beliefs anymore. But it's a reassuring one. You are my new idol, Naruto ni. Kiba said, staring at Naruto in awe while Shino nodded his agreement. Kiba hummed in agreement with his counterpart and gets smacked by Ino in the process. Shino clearly remains indifferent. Does that make your daughters our nieces, or would they be more like sisters? Hinata had asked curiously, causing Naruto to merely shrug his indifference to this while leaving it up to them to decide. Hinata immediately declared that Naruto's adopted daughters were her new sisters and proceeded to try and spoil them rotten, with Naruto's fiancés laughing the whole time. In this world, it seems that I, Hinata-sama, don't have romantic feelings for Naruto. Hinata and Neji thought. While Hinata is annoyed that she won't get action in this universe, she's happy that she will definitely get action for her own world. Way to go, boss Ni-san. They definitely look better than that other girl you pretended to have a crush on, and they're probably better fighters too. Konohamaru said, causing his uncle Asuma to laugh, while the Stargirls looked at Naruto curiously, and he told them that Konohamaru was talking about his teammate Sakura, causing the women to wince since he had told them all about her and how he pretended to want to date her even though she was pretty much useless in any kind of real fight. Sakura wordlessly shrieked their ears to deafness, but Karma snaps his fingers to knock her out. Hinata is happy Naruto didn't react to Sakura getting hurt, but asks hopefully, is it true you faked those feelings? Definitely. It pushes pressure of myself if the civilians find someone abusing me. It's not like I touch her without having to. Naruto explained. Hinata sighed in relief and happiness, knowing there are no obstacles in this dimension that can make Naruto hesitant. Karma grabs Sakura and hoists her over his shoulder. I'll go lock her up and keep her unconscious until you go back. He states, receiving nods. You are way too troublesome, Ni-san. Shikamaru said lazily while Choji offered Naruto a bag of chips in congratulations, and Ino merely shook her head in bemusement. Typical response for them. Tsunade said, Naruto, my honorary nephew. I think you are the new idol of every straight man in the world. Asuma had told him seriously, causing Naruto to merely laugh it off. Even when tied up and risk a beating, Jiraiya still nodded, agreeing. Kakashi nodding mentally, not stupid enough to risk another beatdown. Damn Gaki Taicho, you're one lucky brat, you know that, right? Anko had asked when she had found out and dropped in for a visit, somehow getting along with Subaru and Cherry rather well. Ibiki had taken one long look at Naruto before shaking his head and muttering something under his breath that sounded vaguely like, damn lucky brat. Is it just me, or are the boys saying, lucky bastard? Shizune asks, puzzled. Karma hums, saying, it is a correct sentence to Naruto's situation. Everyone nods agreeably except Tsunade nods rather begrudgingly. Another memorial event was when Naruto told everyone about Kyuubi and how she was sealed inside of him just before their battle with Oda Nobunaga, in which Naruto was possessed by the evil spirit. How will this go? Anko murmured, grinning excitedly. Ha 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 ha. You're an idiot if you think you can take over my body or possess me for anything longer than a minute or two. Q-Ka-san hates freeloaders, and that is what you are. So get out or get eaten. Naruto yelled as an outline of Kyuubi formed behind Naruto's star after his fiancés and children yelled for him to come back to them. Charon yelling at him to come back if for no other reason than to help raise the child she was carrying. Kyuubi bit down on Nobunaga and caused him to scream and vanish into thin air without putting up a fight at all. Definitely a dramatic way to reveal she's pregnant. Anko stated in amusement. Hinata takes this chance to lean her head back on Naruto's shoulder so she can whisper in his ear without anyone hearing anything. If you got me pregnant right now, what would your opinion be? Hinata whispered. She wants to know his view on pregnant preteens because he wasn't raised in clan beliefs that preteen pregnancies were normal. Naruto whispers back, isn't it normal? As long as I can have a family to care for and love, I would love having a baby to care for, teach and watch grow up. Hinata practically glows with happiness at the answer, shocked that Naruto has the clan views of pregnancies but happier for it all the same. Naruto is shocked at Hinata's question but replies anyway. When he watches the happiness on her face, it made him admit the feelings he always had for the shy girl always hiding in her jacket, but someone who was gentle and kind but strong. He's sure it will grow into love the more time he spends around her anyway. He's sure that if they have and she's pregnant, he will be happy. No matter what anybody else says. So we're having a baby? Naruto asked Charon the moment they got out of their stars back at the theater. Charon nodded as she and the others tackled him in hugs with one hand on her lower abdomen as she smiled and kissed Naruto. Naruto grinned like a loon as he placed a hand over her stomach as well. How sweet. Shizune cooed. Tsunade agreed as she turned her head towards Naruto to find Hinata whispering to Naruto. She watched when Naruto's answer caused her to glow in happiness, and she knows that Naruto will be reading for the impeding baby. That was 2 weeks ago, and now that all the demons, except Kokoryu, who is now a human who was engaged to Naruto, were gone never to come back, the rather large family was heading back to Konoha just in time for the Chunin exams. Will it finally show the exam? Kiba excitedly asked, though he pouted when Karma ignored him. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.